This is the Evan Miller Report on Pundit Press Radio. Due to time-sensitive information from a delayed broadcast that aired the day before on SHR Media, some stories may be updated or irrelevant at this time. We hope you enjoy this broadcast of the Evan Miller Report on Pundit Press Radio from SHR Media.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I'm Jason Miller. Tonight on the Evan Miller Report.
Thank you as always, Jay. All the pieces of the Air Asia investigation are coming together now that the fuselage has been found. President Obama talks greater connectivity in our continuing battle against global socialism. Oil and retail are weighing heavy on the stock market as pork weighs heavy on Chipotle Mexican. It's basketball, bad sweetener operations, and booze in lawsuits across America. And Liam Neeson just has to put our entertainment report into global socialism as well. All that and more in today's Evan Miller Report, your conservative news source. Starting right now. Let's get to it.
Live from Southern California, this is the Evan Miller Report. Jason Miller with news and politics, Corey Evan with business and entertainment. This is the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media and Pundit Press Radio. Here now, Jason Miller.
And a very good evening on this Wednesday, January 2015.
Good evening, folks. Man, it's a nice day today and a beautiful sunset here in Southern California. I'm hoping you're seeing it, Jay, at least out of your office window.
Yes, absolutely. Beautiful day, typical Southern California weather here on this Wednesday.
And hopefully it's a beautiful day across America as well for most people in general.
Yeah, absolutely, considering it's winter in most places, people dealing with snow. All right, folks, we have a lot of news to get to, so let's get right to it tonight. Parisans lined up Wednesday to empty the newsstands of the first issue of Charlie Hebdo a week after Islamic extremists attacked the satirical newspaper office, and French justice officials began cracking down by arresting dozens of people who glorified terrorism or made racist or anti-Semitic remarks. The editors of the publication again put a caricature of the Prophet Muhammad on the cover and quickly sold out by early morning around the capital and elsewhere, with long lines and scuffles at kiosks. Disappointed buyers were told to come back Thursday when more of the increased print run of 5 million copies will be available. A leader of Yemen's al-Qaeda branch has officially claimed responsibility for the attacks by two gunmen that left 12 dead at the weekly publication, saying in a video posted online that the slayings came in vengeance for the Prophet. The newspaper had received repeated threats for lampooning Muhammad. A third attacker killed 5 other people, bringing the total number of dead in the January 7th to the 9th spasm of violence to 17 before all gunmen died in police raids last week. On alert for new attacks, France deployed thousands of police and soldiers around the country, and they moved to quash any racist remarks or praise for terrorists. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Wednesday hit back at the Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who blasted him this week for daring to attend an anti-terror solidarity march in Paris, saying, quote, "I believe his shameful remarks must be repudiated by the international community, because the war against terror will only succeed if it's guided by moral clarity." Netanyahu's office quoted him as telling visiting leaders of the U.S. pro-Israel lobby AIPAC, Netanyahu, as well as the Turkish Prime Minister Mehmet Davutoglu, joined the other world leaders at Sunday's Paris march in memory of 17 people killed in Islamist terror attacks last week, among them 4 Jews. At a news conference in Ankara on Monday with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, Erdogan said he could hardly understand how he, Netanyahu, dared to go to the massive march in the French capital. The Turkish president urged Netanyahu to give an account for the children, women you massacred, and accused him of leading state terrorism against the Palestinians. Meanwhile, an Israeli newspaper, Orthodox newspaper, in Israel is making waves internationally for removing German Chancellor Angela Merkel from a photo of this week's Paris march out of modesty. World leaders had linked arms to march in Paris against terrorism after Islamic extremists killed those 17 people, but readers of the Hamas newspaper Monday edition didn't know, as she had been digitally removed, leaving Abbas standing next to Hall. Israeli media joked it was meant to bring Abbas closer to Israeli Premier Benjamin Netanyahu, who was standing nearby. Within the insular ultra-Orthodox community, pictures of women are rarely shown in newspapers and magazines due to modesty concerns. In Jerusalem, ultra-Orthodox vandals frequently deface buses, billboards bearing advertisements deemed immodest. Visitors to the religious neighborhood of Mea Shearim are greeted with signs saying, "Please do not pass through our neighborhood in immodest clothes." A woman's exterior should not be seen and photographed or paraded in front of men, said Yosef Haman, a neighborhood resident. "I think it's a very positive thing." The picture in Hamvester cut out other women like Paris's mayor, Annie Hidalgo, although the newspaper clumsily left her dark glove on the sleeve of a marcher. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Federica Mogherini, was also cropped out. The head of NATO has urged Russia today to drop its support for separatists in eastern Ukraine. "We call on Russia to respect the Minsk agreements, to use all influence on the separatists to make them respect the ceasefire, and to withdraw the support for the separatists," said NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg at a news conference in Berlin. NATO does not seek confrontation with Russia. NATO aspires for more constructive and cooperative relationship with Russia, but to able to establish that, Russia must want it too, he added, after talks with German Chancellor Angela Merkel today. More on this story as it becomes available. The Islamic State jihadist group released a video on Tuesday purporting to show a young boy executing 2 men accused for working for the Russian intelligence services. The video shows the 2 men apparently being shot dead by the child after being interrogated on camera about their alleged attempts to infiltrate ISIS in Syria. Entitled "Uncovering an Enemy Within" in English, the video was narrated in Russian and opens with the interrogation of one of the men, who says he is a Cossack citizen. He says he was recruited by Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, or the FSB, as it's more well known, to get close to an unnamed ISIS fighter. The second man, who does not give his nationality but says he worked for the FSB in Russia, previously says he was tasked with killing an unnamed ISIS fighter. Both men say they were told to collect and transmit information about ISIS fighters in Syria. After the interrogations, the video cuts to an outdoor scene where a bearded adult ISIS fighter in military-style clothes is standing next to the young boy armed with a pistol. The man recites religious verses and says the 2 men are in custody of the Lion Clubs of ISIS self-described Islamic Caliphate. The boy has long hair and is dressed in black, zip-up sweater and military-style trousers. The two men dressed in matching gray outfits are kneeling before the man and the child, who steps forward and shoots both men once in the head and several times again after they collapse. So, Corey, it seems a very disturbing scene that we're seeing over in Syria. Now they're getting the kids involved.
To think the kids are being involved in anything military or terrorists like this is just beyond me. Why anyone would want to bring kids into the picture on this and risk their lives, because they're essentially our next generation. To put our next generation at risk is just the purest form of perversion that I personally have ever heard of, and they ought to be executed for thinking of it, I think.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that, Corey. And I understand you have more news on Air Asia tonight?
Absolutely, I do, Jay. And this latest update, of course, comes to us from our friends over at Fox News. A Singaporean Navy ship has found the crashed Air Asia plane's fuselage, a 30-meter-long section with a wing attached, in the Java Sea, authorities said Wednesday to Fox News. Images taken by a remote-controlled vehicle from the ship showed parts of the plane's wing and words on the fuselage, Singapore Defense Minister Ng Eng Hen said on his Facebook page. He said Indonesian search officials have been notified so they can begin recovery operations. The fuselage section that was found is 30 yards long and 10 meters wide with a height of 3 meters, Indonesia's National Search and Rescue Agency Chief Henry Bambang Solistyo said. Quote, the fuselage with the wing still attached on it was found in the priority search area and has been confirmed as part of Air Asia plane, Solistyo said. He added it was some 1.8 miles from the tail, which was found earlier, and 2,600 feet from the black boxes at a depth of about 92 feet. The plane carrying 162 people disappeared from radar December 28th, less than halfway into that 2-hour flight from Surabaya to Singapore. Many of the victims are believed to be entombed in the main section of the aircraft's cabin. Also today, fishermen found 2 bodies along with plane seats and debris off the coast of South Kalimantan, bringing to 50 the total of bodies recovered so far. President Joko Widodo expressed happiness for the discovery, saying that divers would examine the fuselage Thursday. The plane's black boxes, the flight data recorder, and cockpit flight recorder were, of course, retrieved on Monday and Tuesday and will be key to learning what caused the plane to crash in the coming year. Bad weather is, of course, a suspected factor, but I'm sure there's a lot more to the story, and we will bring you those developments as they become available. Next up from NBC News, the number of new Ebola cases is starting to drop off in the 3 worst-hit West African countries, and Liberia has only reported 48 cases in the past 3 weeks, according to the World Health Organization today. Guinea and Liberia both reported the fewest new cases since August, the WHO said in its latest daily look at Ebola statistics. Sierra Leone is still suffering badly with 769 new cases over the past 21 days, but that's a decline in reported cases. Overall, 21,200 people have been infected in this ongoing epidemic of Ebola, and 8,400 have died, according to the WHO. Before this epidemic, fewer than 500 people were ever infected in any single Ebola outbreak. Quote, Guinea reported its lowest weekly total of newly confirmed Ebola virus disease cases since the week ending August 17, 2014, the WHO said. Case numbers remain low in Liberia, with no confirmed cases nationally for the final 2 days of the week ending January 11th, and the lowest weekly total of confirmed cases since the first week of June 2014, unquote. All affected countries have enough treatment capacity, but it might not all be where it's most needed, the WHO said, and safe burials are not at 100% yet. Many people are infected through contact with the recently dead. So as that development develops, I will bring you the latest developments. Japan's cabinet approved the country's largest defense budget yesterday, including plans to buy surveillance aircraft, drones, oh dear, we're not fans of drones, but moving on, and F-35 fighter jets to help counter China's rising assertiveness in the region, according to Today Online. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's cabinet endorsed a nearly 5 trillion yen, that's about $57 billion in our money, defense budget for the year beginning in April as part of a record 96.3 trillion yen total budget. Quote, the situation around Japan is changing, said Defense Minister Jen Nakatani on Sunday. The level of defense spending reflects the amount necessary to protect Japan's air, sea, and land, and guard the lives. Defense spending is the third annual increase under Mr. Abe, who took office in December 2012 and ended 11 straight years of defense budget cuts. The increase mainly covers new equipment, including P-1 surveillance aircraft, the F-35 fighter jets, and amphibious vehicles for a new unit similar to the U.S. Marine Corps. The aim is to boost Japan's capacity to defend uninhabited islands in the East China Sea that it controls, but which are also claimed by China. The budget also covers the cost of purchasing parts for Global Hawk drones planned for deployment in 2019, 2 Aegis radar-equipped destroyers, and missile defense system development with Washington. It also includes spending to relocate U.S. troops away from Okinawa Island, where locals have protested against the heavy American presence. Mr. Abe favors a stronger role for Japan's military despite a commitment to pacifism enshrined in the U.S.-inspired constitution drawn up after the country's defeat in World War II. Japan's defense guidelines were revised in December 2013 as tensions rose over the East China Sea islands. Chinese patrol boats often visit waters near the islands, which are known as the Senkakus in Japan, and as the Diaoyu Islands in China. Beijing has been stepping up military spending, which rose 12.2% to $132 billion in our money last year, second only to the U.S. It also has a large and sophisticated defense industry, which doesn't exactly make me comfortable thinking that China has such a big budget themselves, AJ?
Certainly is disturbing. China is one of those more powerful nations at this particular juncture. Always has been a threat over in the region. We have our fleet helping out the country of Taiwan by having the fleet there in the first place, because if it wasn't for our fleet, China would have knocked Taiwan off the map. And then, of course, upcoming for later this year, the current treaty that we have with Japan regarding their military is supposed to end, so it's very understandable why people here in the U.S. ought to be concerned, considering the Japanese want to increase their military presence, Corey.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Certainly will be. What else do you have for us tonight?
I've got one more international, rather light one. I hope you don't mind. It's about Prince George. May I?
Yes, you may.
Awesome. Following the announcement of his impending arrival back in December 2012, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, have received an impressive haul of gifts for their son Prince George. This according to the New Zealand Herald. As the well-loved royal couple traveled the world with and without their young son, they gathered almost 1,300 presents from members of the public, officials, organizations, and charities, the Royal Central reported. Some of the most unusual gifts included 2 pairs of sheepskin boots, a rocking horse from the Royal Agricultural Society of New South Wales, a skateboard. He's a bit young to be riding on a skateboard, but I'll continue. 2 footballs, a possum skin cloak from the Gundungurra Tribal Council Aboriginal Corporation, a polo mallet, a surfing shirt and a swimming cap, a placemat and a coaster, a toothbrush, that's going to be handy when he gets teeth, loads of sporting equipment, including a mini speedboat, cricket bat, and bicycle, various items of clothing, including baseball caps, jumpers, and sports shirts. Quite a haul. That's pretty impressive. On his first official tour to New Zealand and Australia, the prince received at least 16 soft toys, plus another 239 games and toys, the most popular gifts for the future king, who was not yet 1 year old. The Duke went to Malta on behalf of his ill wife, receiving even more goodies, including a mini Maltese cross and more soft toys. The royal couple only spent 3 days in New York at the end of last year, but picked up 14 gifts for George, including a mini academic gown from the University of St. Andrews, where his parents met, plus 2 dressing gowns and a basketball shirt. The Duke and Duchess weren't the only ones to accept gifts for their Prince George. His grandfather, Prince Charles, was given plenty of presents to pass on. And in Canada, he received 2 dream catchers, a pair of slippers, a tartan blanket, a watercolor sketch, a flying jacket featuring the American flag, and a pewter teddy. And on a tour to South America, Prince Charles was given goodies including a wooden model train and stacks more toys and books. Oh boy, to say that the prince is going to have plenty to play with is an understatement beyond understating, AJ.
Talk about the Royal Toy Emporium right there, Corey. The kid got enough toys.
Yes, they spoiled that kid.
Man, good grief. Any kid who's listening to this
that I got
tonight,
excited when I got a Bop It Extreme. You know that thing, the Bop It, Twist It, Spin It, Flick It, Pull It, that thing. That was the most exciting thing I ever got. So, Prince George, I hope you truly appreciate this someday.
Yeah, well, let's just say he's in royalty, and not only is other countries going to spoil him, so is the Queen, as she has plenty of dough to spend on the young rascal.
Yes, absolutely. Let's just hope that he has a ball.
Ooh, okay. Some of you might find that to be an offensive joke. Some of you might be laughing a little bit. Corey must have been listening to the Sackheads radio show special edition last night. All right. Corey, Evan, thank you very much. He'll be back in a couple minutes with the business news plus some top stories and tonight's global socialism. First, though, David Cameron and Ed Miliband have accused each other of running scared over election TV debates as they clashed at Prime Minister's questions today. Mr. Miliband called the Prime Minister's refusal to take part unless the Green Party was involved a pathetic excuse. Here is what some of what was said at this morning's Prime Minister's questions.
A party leader said, and I quote, "It would have been feeble to find some excuse to back out." So I thought, we've got to stick at this. We've got to do it. Can you remind us who said that?
I am all for these debates taking place, but you cannot have... The question has been asked, and the answer must be heard. The Prime Minister. I'm all for these debates, but you cannot have 2 minor parties without the third minor party. So I put the question to him. Why is he so frightened of debating the Green Party?
Mr. Speaker, I'll debate anyone the broadcasters invite. But the man who said it will be feeble to back out the debates was him. Now we all understand that as long ago as last Thursday, his abiding passion was to give the Green Party a platform. But it is frankly a pathetic excuse. It's not for him. It's not for him. It's not for him. It's not for me. It's not for any party leader to decide who is in the debates. It's up to the broadcasters. That's the country we live in. Now, is he really telling the people of Britain that he's going to seek to deny them the TV debates if he doesn't get to choose who's in them?
We had a set of European elections this year, and UKIP and the Greens both beat the Liberal Democrats, I'm afraid to say. And you either have... it's very simple. You either have both of them, or you have none of them. So let me ask him again. Why is he so chicken when it comes to the Greens?
Mr. Speaker, there's only one person running scared of these debates, and that's this Prime Minister. And when he says he doesn't want to take part because of the Greens, nobody believes him. Not the people behind him, not the person next to him, not the country. However he dresses it up, everyone knows he's running scared. These debates don't belong to me, they don't belong to him, they belong to the British people. What does he think gives him the right to run away from these debates?
There are There are two credible sets of debates. You can either have a debate with all the national parties who appear in this House, or you can have a debate, or both, have a debate between the two people who become Prime Minister. Those are the credible debates, so I ask him again, when he looks at the Green Party, why is he so scared?
It's complete, Mr. Speaker. I'll debate anyone the broadcasters invite to debate. I think he does protest too much. He's run out of excuses. He's running scared of these debates. And in the words of his heroine, Lady Thatcher, he's frit.
Well, isn't it interesting, Mr. Speaker? With just 10 of these sessions to go, he wants to debate having a debate. He can't talk about unemployment because it's coming down. He can't talk about growth in the economy because it's going up. He can't talk about his energy price freeze because it's turned into a total joke. I have to say to him, Mr. Speaker, the more time he and I can spend in a television studio or on television, the happier I will be. But please, if he's got any more questions left, ask a serious one.
Some of what was said at very rowdy Prime Minister's questions today. Meanwhile, in response, the BBC, Sky News, ITV, and Channel 4 in the UK say they remain committed to staging debates before the poll on May the 7th for the general elections in the UK, raising the issue in Parliament. Mr. Miliband said Mr. Cameron had argued back, as he said, in 2010 that would be feasible for any party leader to walk away from the debates, but was now threatening to do just that. And of course, Corey, as you well know, watching British politics, sometimes it's a little bit more rowdy and straight to the point than even U.S. politics.
Actually, I find it a lot more amusing to listen or watch British politics going down than American politics. And you know how politically correct or incorrect this country can be at times, so to say that Britain has more interesting politics, that's pretty impressive. I give you a round of applause just on that note, ladies and gentlemen of the UK. But on that note, they're really making a grand brouhaha about who the media invites. Well, if they're going to make that sort of case, well, to all the broadcasters in the UK, put out the invites and see who comes to the debates.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's been said that David Cameron's polling numbers are down since he is sticking up for the Greens, and then others are saying, well, if you're going to include the Greens, you better include the Scottish MPs as well in there, considering what happened with the results of the Scottish referendum.
You just can't leave anyone out without offending anyone these days, so if you're going to invite one party, you better invite them all, yeah.
Well, there you go. That's and you know the UK, they have so many parties over in that country. It's much more than our typical, I should say, official three-party system we have here. We have the independents, the Republicans, and of course the Democrats here in the U.S. So for those of you not familiar with British politics, it can get a little complex.
You think?
So, more on this story to come. We'll follow this story and bring you any more developments as they become available here on the program. Meantime, we're going to take our first commercial break tonight. When we come back here tonight on the program, some U.S. news tonight. The FBI has arrested a man in Ohio allegedly planning to attack the U.S. Capitol in D.C. The Islamic State inspired
Retail numbers are worse than Wall Street originally thought. How bad are they? You'll find out. Along with the burning answer to this burning question that is, who's looking to buy out BlackBerry, the once cream of the crop in the smartphone industry. And how is Chipotle handling their recent pork fallout? You'll hear all of the oink-oinks to come in the Evan Miller Report after this break. You're listening to SHR Media, of course.
You're listening to the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media and Pundit Press Radio.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey y'all, Cedric the Entertainer here with Niecy Nash, taking a break from shooting The Soul Man to introduce you to Patience.
Hi.
Patience is a patient at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Families never receive a bill from St. Jude for anything because all a family should worry about is helping their child live.
St. Jude won't give up until they end childhood cancer, sickle cell, and other deadly diseases.
Because of you, there is St. Jude.
Learn more at stjude.org.
Let's get back to the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media and Pundit Press Radio.
And we're back on the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media. I'm Corey Evan. Jason Miller will be back in just a few short minutes. But first, of course, your business report. And it's not looking good on the stock market. U.S. stocks fell, sending the Standard & Poor's 500 index to a fourth straight loss as a decline in American retail sales and slump in copper prices. Ooh, that's pretty surprising to me. Spurred concern that global growth is slowing. This according to the Chicago Tribune. Equities pared losses during the afternoon after oil prices wiped out a drop of 1.9% and proceeded to rally almost 7%, while the Fed's Beige Book said the U.S. economy continued to expand last month. The S&P 500 dropped 0.6% to 2011 at 4 p.m. in New York, trimming an earlier decline of 1.7%. The Dow lost 187 points to 17,426. Trading in S&P 500 companies was 38% above the 30-day average for this time of day. Freeport-McMoRan, the largest publicly traded copper producer, dropped 11% as the metal's price plunged 5.3%. J.P. Morgan Chase & Company lost 3.5% after fourth quarter profits slumped, while an index of banks tumbled 10% from a December high. Walmart retreated 3.1% as the World Bank lowered its outlook for the global economy. Stay with us here at the Evan Miller Report. We will bring you all the economic numbers as they continue to develop. Next up from Reuters, Samsung Electronics recently offered to buy BlackBerry Limited for as much as $7.5 billion, seeking its valuable patents as it battles Apple in the corporate market, and of course in lawsuits across America, as you've heard before, according to a person familiar with the matter and documents seen by Reuters. Samsung proposed an initial price range of $13.35 to $15.49 per share, representing a premium of 38 to 60% over BlackBerry's current trading price, the source said on Wednesday. Executives from the two companies, which are working with advisors, met last week to discuss a potential transaction, the source said, asking not to be identified because the conversations are private. The Waterloo, Ontario, Canada-based company said in a statement that it is not engaged in discussions with Samsung with respect to any possible offer to purchase BlackBerry. Shares of BlackBerry, which soared nearly 30% following the Reuters report, fell back about 15% in after-hours electronic trading following the statement. Separately today, Canadian newspaper Globe and Mail reported BlackBerry has shunned a handful of takeover overtures in recent months, as its board and largest investor think its restructuring strategy will deliver greater shareholder value than current acquisition offers. The board believes offering prices, some in excess of $7 billion, fall well below BlackBerry's potential asset value in the next few years, according to the Globe and Mail report. Well, what would add value to your company is something that can really challenge the iPhone and the Samsung Galaxy. So, BlackBerry, if you're not going to let anyone buy you out, develop a really heck good product. That's my advice to you. Because you're really going to want to bounce back from near death, as I like to call it. Because as you know, folks, BlackBerry was once the biggest smartphone company in the world before, of course, Samsung and Apple dominated the market in recent years. And finally, from Reuters, Chipotle Mexican Grill's decision to suspend purchases from a pork producer that ran afoul of its animal welfare rules could bolster its reputation with diners, but threatens sales and profits this quarter. The burrito chain's move caused a supply shortfall that's hitting about a third of its roughly 1,800 U.S. restaurants. Chipotle shares fell 0.6% to $7.09 and 74 cents on the New York Stock Exchange today. Diners choose braised pork carnitas as the protein in about 7% of all burritos, tacos, bowls, and salads sold at the chain, according to Miller Tabak and Company analyst Steven Anderson. Anderson said the move should strengthen Chipotle's relationship with diners, many of whom like its food with integrity policy that focuses on using organic produce and antibiotic-free meats when those ingredients are available, of course. Citing the risk of lost sales, Anderson cut his first quarter per share earnings forecast to a range of $3.84 to $3.87 from the $3.93 he previously forecast. He also lowers his growth forecast for sales at established restaurants to 10 to 10.3% from his previous estimate of 11%. The supply crisis underscores the clash between the U.S. agriculture industry, commodity traders, food companies, and American consumers who have become increasingly concerned about what happens to their food before it reaches their plates. Chipotle made the decision Friday to cease buying pork from the unidentified supplier after one of its own auditors found inconsistencies with company standards requiring that pigs be raised with access to the outdoors or in deeply bedded barns. Oh dear, when something like this happens, you know that something's not going to be right in your big pork burrito, is it, Jay?
Certainly is not, Corey. Certainly is not. Thank you very much for that. One final business story before we wrap up the business tonight. The department store operator Macy's said it would close 14 stores in early spring of this year and cut some jobs to focus on its popular services such as in-store pickups for online orders and a ship from store. Macy's, which owns the high-end Bloomingdale's chain, said the move would help offset higher expenses expected from healthcare and retirement plans. The retailer said its workforce was expected to remain at a level of about 175,000 as it expects to hire associates to expand its direct-to-consumer business. Macy's has spent nearly $2 billion on IT and e-commerce projects over the past 5 years to compete with online giants such as Amazon. Ship from Store, a service that allows customers to order from another Macy's store if the item is not available and have it sent to their home, has helped Macy's keep a tight hold on inventory. And that wraps up the business news tonight here on the Evan Miller Report. And now it's time for the latest on our continuing war against global socialism. Our first story starts off tonight in Oxford University in the wake of the shootings in Paris that left over those people dead. Oxford University Press has issued guidance on the and some references to the rule of things. Training from the scenes usually these guidelines are reviewed by these different centers, which is not a letter here said sent out by Oxford University Press to all the assembly. Evidence in the text that was commissioned by the OUP is the following. Is forbidden to touch pork. Now, Naughty said, if a respectable publisher tied to an academic institution is saying you've got to write a book in which you cannot mention pigs because some people might be offended, it's just ludicrous. It's just a joke. An OUP spokesman defended the decision, though, explaining many of the educational materials we publish in the UK are sold in more than 150 countries, and as much as they need to consider a range of cultural differences and sensitivities, our editorial guidelines are intended to help ensure that the resources that we produce can be disseminated to the widest possible audience. OUP also directly stated that they must be considerate to the widest audience possible, writing, our materials are sold to in nearly 200 countries, and as such, and without compromising our commitment in any way, we encourage some authors of educational materials respectively to consider cultural differences and sensitivities. I consider it political correctness BS on steroids. Don't you, Corey Evan?
Absolutely, I do. And I've got political political perversion going right here in my story. I just had to find the right word there. But U.S. President Barack Obama said laws that impede local governments from bringing competitively priced high-speed internet to their residents hold back businesses and raise prices for consumers. This from Business Week. Obama used the well-wired city of Cedar Falls, Iowa, which he said provides broadband access that's almost 100 times faster than the national average, as an example for the rest of the country, and to urge repeal of laws that prevent the communities from creating their own networks. The president is urging the FCC to address barriers that keep communities from building their own broadband networks. His remarks were intended to touch on one of the messages he'll deliver in his State of the Fart address to the nation next week. Obama has made expanding broadband access a priority, pushing for more airwaves for mobile internet access and calling for greater funding for high-speed internet in schools. The Iowa visit signals the issue will be part of his agenda as he works with the new Republican-led U.S. Congress. Quote, I believe the community has the right to make its own choice and to provide its own broadband if it wants to, Obama said. About 21 states bar or impede municipal broadband initiatives, according to a recent filing to the FCC by a Coalition for Local Internet Choice, a group that has been seeking more power for local communities. The issue has been a partisan political topic, with Democrats like Obama saying municipal networks should be free of states' restriction, while Republicans oppose overriding state laws. Quote, Americans' decades-long policy of promoting private investment and exercising a light regulatory touch has yielded substantial benefits, Michael Powell, president of the National Cable and Telecommunications Association and a former FCC chairman, said in an emailed statement. While government-run networks may be appropriate in rare cases, many such enterprises have ended up in failure, saddling taxpayers with significant long-term financial liabilities, unquote. The FCC is considering a request from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Wilson, North Carolina, to override state restrictions on building networks. Wheeler, like Obama, a Democrat, has told Congress he has the power to override state laws as part of the agency's mission to promote broadband or high-speed internet service. Michael O'Reilly, a Republican member of the FCC, said city-run broadband aren't the boon that proponents, including the administration, claim. And I agree with that one, because I'll name a local example to our studios here in the Southern California market. In Riverside, California, they set up a network called Smart Riverside, and from what I've heard, it's just been nothing but a headache. So not only is it a potential for the NSA to spy on us, it's just going to be very expensive. Am I right or am I right, Jay?
Oh, you certainly are right, Corey. It's just like providing free Obama phones to people that people tend to steal on our taxpayer dime.
Yes, it makes me wish that they would stop that, you know? So, how far will the government's prying eyes take privacy this year? Why do the words pork and pig make the East want to strangle Porky Pig? And where did that pile of junk in the storage shed come from? Stay tuned for developments in our continuing battle against global socialism. Jay, you said you have some DC news for us?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
you do have. We do have DC news tonight. Thank you very much for that. The FBI has arrested a man in Ohio for allegedly planning to attack the U.S. Capitol in D.C. in an ISIS-inspired attack. Christopher Cornell has been charged with attempting to kill a government officer, according to court documents. He came to the attention of the FBI after tweeting support for extremist groups like ISIS. The public was never in danger during this investigation, said Cincinnati Special Agent in Charge John Burroughs. Mr. Cornell, 20, was arrested after purchasing firearms on Wednesday, but had been long tracked by an undercover agent. He allegedly operated a Twitter account under the alias Rahul Maras Ubai, which came to the attention of the FBI through a confidential source in August. The source had been cooperating with the FBI to favorable treatment in an unrelated case, court documents have said. Mr. Cornell allegedly told the source he had not been directly authorized by ISIS leaders overseas to undertake attacks, but wanted to wage jihad under our own orders. At a second meeting, Mr. Cornell allegedly told the source they wanted to go to Washington, set off pipe bombs at the Capitol building, and then shoot employees and officials there. He was arrested by the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force after buying 2 M15 semi-automatic rifles and 600 rounds of ammunition in Ohio. The 236-191 roll call Wednesday, by which the House passed a bill that would provide nearly $40 billion to finance the Homeland Security Department through the rest of the budget year. This bill includes provisions rolling back President Obama's actions on immigration. A yes vote is expected to pass the bill. Voting yes were 2 Democrats and 234 Republicans. Voting no were 181 Democrats and 10 Republicans. There are 2 vacancies in the 435-member House at this time. And of course, we're going to provide the full list of people who voted in that bill on our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report. And that's the latest DC news now. Now it's time for tonight's Lawsuits Across America.
And now it's time for Lawsuits Across America. The cases are real. All rise for the Honorable Corey Evans.
Thank you. As always, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Come to order. Lawsuits Across America is now in session. A February 17th trial date looms for a lawsuit brought by Pennsylvania State Senator Jake Corman and Treasurer Rob McCord against the NCAA, and the parties, including Penn State, which is a defendant, have discussed a settlement. according to a person familiar with the talks who spoke to USA Today on condition of anonymity because the person was not authorized to speak publicly. He characterized the process in recent weeks as waiting to see if the case would proceed toward a deal or trial, then back and forth negotiation about terms. That inaction could change, though, thanks to a federal court decision that struck a blow to the NCAA's case. The NCAA had sued McCord and Mark Zimmer, chairman of the state's Commission on Crime and Delinquency, to challenge the constitutionality of the Endowment Act, a 2013 law that would keep the $60 million fine that was part of the consent decree in Pennsylvania. And as we get developments on that story, we will bring them to you in a future report. Attorneys said an investment firm settled a federal class action lawsuit today that accused it of bilking investors across the U.S. out of $39 million in bonds in a botched plan to build an artificial sweetener plant in Missouri. This according to ABC News. The terms of the agreement weren't disclosed, but the settlement, announced the same day opening statements in the trial were scheduled, came after less than an hour of private discussions and ended the lawsuit against investment banking firm Morgan Keegan. Morgan Keegan was accused of misrepresenting the failed project's chances of success to bondholders. The case pitted the investment firm and legal advisor Armstrong Teasdale against 133 people who bought bonds for the plant. Investors from 19 states were represented. And I'll briefly mention before bringing this to an end, Petaluma, California-based Lagunitas Brewing Company sued rival Sierra Nevada Brewing Company over alleged trademark infringement on its new Hop Hunter label, but has now quickly backed away late yesterday from a legal battle between two of the nation's biggest craft brewers in an industry noted for its collegiality than for litigation, and I will of course post that one on our Facebook page because I think that's an interesting one that you ought to read into than just hear me banging on about it at facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report. And on that note, I will declare that Lawsuits Across America session case dismissed because Liam Neeson has forced us into global socialism part 2 today. Speaking at the Taken 3 press conference in Dubai, Liam Neeson was asked a question about the Charlie Hebdo attacks in Paris last week. The 62-year-old actor linked the event with gun violence in the U.S. He said, quote, "There are too many guns out there, especially in America. I think the population is like 320 million. There are over 300 million guns privately owned in America. I think it's a disgrace. Every week now we're picking up a newspaper and seeing, quote, yet another few kids have been killed in schools, unquote." And to think Piers Morgan was banging on about the same thing for 3 years on CNN before CNN finally decided to throw the loser out. And now we're adding Liam Neeson to our list of folks that we're not 100% fans of. Great. And speaking of great, gay porn website men.com has quite the offer for Justin Bieber. Forgive me, folks, I just had to bring in this. The site shared a video online today starring adult film actor Johnny Rapid, in which Rapid asks the 20-year-old singer to have sex with him, for a cool check, of course.
Whoa.
And the caption on the video reads, "Breaking. Now that we've all seen his beautiful..." Never mind, I'm not going to say that.
Let's not go.
Yeah, let's just hope that Mr. Bieber doesn't cash in on the X-rated offer, because that would just be disgusting. I'm sorry, I just had to bring that. I know it's gonna gross certain people out, especially Jay, but it's worth noting that this sort of thing is going on, and it doesn't exactly help our case against gay marriage. So, who in Hollywood will stand up to the gun grabbers? When will we hear the end of this Canadian troublemaker? And why do all my favorite kid stars have to grow up to be boneheads? Stay tuned for developments in our continuing battle against global socialism! And finally, from the Hollywood Reporter, Ruth Wilson has had an eventful 48 hours. On Sunday evening, she took home a Golden Globe for her performance in Showtime's The Affair. She flew back to New York on Monday, and then on Tuesday, her 33rd birthday, she celebrated opening night of her Broadway debut in British playwright Nick Payne's two-handler, Constellations. Wilson and co-star Jake Gyllenhaal are earning raves for the play, a 70-minute romantic drama about the ever-changing possibilities that life and love can carry. David Rooney of The Hollywood Reporter called the performances astonishing, adding, quote, "The range displayed by both actors is impressive indeed, and their chemistry unquestionable." Wilson and Gyllenhaal followed their Broadway debuts on Tuesday by partying at Times Square restaurant Urbo, joining a roster of guests that included Jason Biggs, Jerry and Jessica Seinfeld, Kirstie Alley, the troublemaker lady, 50 Cent, Dan Stevens, Sam Rockwell, Nina Arianda, Tate Donovan, and Josh Hamilton. They were served a buffet of entrees like rigatoni and seared bass. Again, they chose the sea bass over the chicken, as well as champagne and the night's signature gin gimlet. Toward the end of the evening, partygoers and friends, including Wilson's affair co-stars Dominic Wetz, Nicolette Robinson, and Mare Winningham, gathered to sing Happy Birthday as Wilson blew out the candles on her cake. Happy birthday, Miss Wilson, and congratulations on the Golden Globes. And that is your entertainment report for today. Hope to entertain you again with less global socialism tomorrow. Till then, I'm Corey Evans, sending it back to Jason Miller in San Diego. Take it away, Jay.
Thanks very much, Corey. Finally tonight, 2 U.S. climbers who spent more than 2 weeks scaling the sheer face of El Capitan in Yosemite National Park have finally reached the summit of their 3,000-foot rock. Kevin Jorkson, 30, and Tommy Caldwell, 36, are the first climbers to do so without aids, except for harnesses and ropes to prevent deadly falls. They began their historic half-mile ascent back on December 27th of last year. During the climb, the pair slept in tents suspended from the mountain face. A spokeswoman, Jess Clayton, had earlier said the men would not give interviews at the top but would discuss the climb on Thursday. Eric Jorkson, Kevin Jorkson's father, told local media his son had always been a climber, and watching him fulfill a long-time dream makes him proud. He climbed everything he could think of. It makes us nervous early on as parents, but we got used to it. He and his son had begun climbing the other routes to El Capitan's Peak in California when Kevin was 15 years old, making it a birthday tradition every year. At one point, it seemed unlikely they would make it to the top, but according to the BBC's Alistair Leithed, but the pair suffered bruising falls when their grip slipped, would slip, and they would bounce off the mountain face. As disappointing as this is, I'm learning new levels of patience, perseverance, and desire, Jorkson posted online earlier. I'm not giving up. I will rest. I will try again. I will succeed. Well, Corey, I may not be a mountain climber, but those two are two brave souls to be able to climb the top of that mountain. It may not be no Everest, but it certainly is.
Makes me wish I had a local rock wall to climb.
Yeah, absolutely right. Encouraging kids to get out and climb those rocks. Sometimes it's a little fun.
Big time.
And on that note,
just make sure that you're there at the bottom of the wall.
Oh, absolutely.
To catch them, of course.
Right, and have a good harness hooked up to you as well. And on that note, that is the Evan Miller Report for this Wednesday, January the 14th, 2015. I'm Jason Miller.
And I'm Corey Evan. Hey, follow us on Facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report and tweet us at EM Radio Report. You'll be glad you did. And don't forget, the SHR Weekender premieres this Saturday at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific on SHR Media. And I will post more on our Facebook page, Facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report, in regards to our new program as we get closer to Saturday. Till then, I'm Corey Evans saying good night, Jake.
Good night, Corey, and good night to all of you. Coming up next, the Exceptional Conservative Show with Cam McClinton here on the SHR Media Network. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Evan Miller Report. For more information about today's program, go to shrmedia.com or thepunditpress.com. Thanks for listening. Hope you tune in again next time.